Joining us today on Pirate Radio Live, our weekly chat with Mack McCarthy. Coach Mack, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. We've had a lot to watch. Softball has been great. Baseball has been great. NASCAR finally turned in the right direction for me, I think. Uh, but it was a good race regardless. I like that track in Nashville for some reason.
Ryan Blaney, a winner. We will discuss that. But first, a new segment on the show, Coaches Behaving Badly. Coach Mack, what's going on with y'all?
I don't know. Florida has a little reputation for some of that. All the way back to Spurrier and football. Their softball guy seems to get in a little trouble every now and then, and he's been there a while. And they've had basketball coaches like Norm Sloan and some folks like that. So this isn't anything new for the University of Florida, I don't think.
Let's talk about a couple of different things to hit here, and with your history and expertise, a bit taboo, right, to talk to an opposing player. We'll get to the site rep stuff too, but we had Danny Beal on the show yesterday. He called Parker Bird to give an account of his firsthand account of what Kevin O'Sullivan said to him and where Kevin O'Sullivan told him to stick a whiteboard. The bit taboo to talk to opposing players, correct?
During the game, before the game, after the game, that's kind of off limits. I avoided that a lot. I've got a story about talking to a player one time, but Sonny Smith, my old boss, he would never come out, a quick one. He would never come out to watch warm-ups, but he would come out when we played Georgia to talk to Eric Marbury, who was maybe the leading scorer in the country, played in the NBA forever, and he would come out specifically to talk to him, and every time he ran by, he said, "I can't believe he didn't let you shoot more." Or if you were here, you'd be shooting the ball every single time, because he knew Marbury was going to jack it up every time he touched it. But that's one of the few times, and that was sort of in fun. That wasn't really anything malicious. But no, you don't talk to the other players regardless of what's going on.
And then, Mac, you've got the videos of Kevin O'Sullivan talking
Yeah.
to the Coastal folks, the site rep, which was Mark Scalf, the old UNCW coach,
Right.
and Coastal's baseball coach, came out with a pretty great rant after the win over ECU regarding the behavior of Kevin O'Sullivan. But you've been at conference tournaments, you've been to NCAA tournaments where kind of you or the opposing team doesn't really control what's going on. It's kind of the NCAA or the conference at that point, and you're playing indoors, so you don't have to deal with weather delays and stuff like that, but games run long and different
Right.
things can happen. So did you ever, I know you didn't have a run-in like we saw with O'Sullivan, but did you ever feel like you were getting cheated or another team was getting preferential treatment, or maybe you were getting the preferential treatment and had to talk about that with somebody? How about that whole situation?
No, I had that situation occasionally during the regular season when you're playing on an opponent's court and that kind of thing, and when you get there for shoot around or practice the day before, or even the day of the game, we had a lot of teams do some participate in some gamesmanship. How about we say it like that? Whether it be flattened balls or painting the locker room an hour before the game, or jacking up the heat and that kind of thing, or having the hotel offer to clean your room at 6:30 a.m. We had a lot of different things happen in the SEC, but no, you just can't do that, and especially in this day and age. Think about what you and I talk about all the time, or you and all the guys and gals that are on Pirate Radio. Always assume the mic is hot and someone is listening, because
Yeah.
you may have been able to do that 20 years ago before everybody had a cell phone and everything was bound to be repeated within 5 minutes of you saying it. You might have been able to deny it or put a different spin on it, but he was caught red-handed, so to speak.
And speaking of that, just had more apologies drop earlier today from the Wake Forest coach and their athletics director. for I guess a comment made during the game in game last night. But as you just said, Mac, assume you are being watched, or maybe just don't say things like that would be the best possible way to kind of get out of it. But yeah, we got another coach apology. This time coming from Wake Forest.
Yeah, I didn't know anything went on there, but at Tennessee, the way Tennessee does some things, especially in baseball with their head coach and team, I can imagine that I might react poorly in that situation. I don't know what it was about or anything else, but the apologies are a little bit after the fact, and do they
Oh
really
my
help?
God.
But it just proves everybody right that what was said was wildly inappropriate in the situation for the University of Florida.
Bone, I believe. Do we have a gay slur caught on camera? Is that what that was?
Yeah, it was a homophobic slur. Followed 2 pitches later, the guy he called that homophobic slur, 2-run bomb.
Yeah, that's a good way to
Oh wow!
combat that. So more BS apologies out there today, and
Yeah,
just got to use those buzzwords. Unacceptable. Not my character. This is not a reflection of who I am.
yeah.
I let my
Yeah.
emotions get the best of me.
Yeah, just throw all that in there.
That old thing about you are what you do.
Not true, Mac. Everything I say is not who I am.
Okay,
I'm a completely different person.
I've heard that, but only from you.
Oh man. So yeah, looking forward to the super regionals to see who else gets in trouble. That's all I'm watching for now. That ECU's out.
I imagine everybody will be on their best behavior after what's happened so far.
Good grief. Yeah, heck of a run here. As far as hey, it was good to see some SEC teams lose, including the Gators twice to East
13 out
Con.
of 17. That's pretty incredible, and they broke another record. Nobody has ever lost 9 teams in the first round of the NCAA baseball tournament, and I can't say I didn't enjoy that a little bit.
Sure, and now we move on to the super regionals, and Mac, I think you brought this up from a football standpoint. All of
Yeah,
the if you talk to somebody who hasn't followed it and say who's in what conference now, you'd be very confused. But a lot of teams that were in other conferences came in last year and won in their new conference, and now you've got a situation like the Big Ten, for example, in baseball. Because I was kind of thinking about it on selection show Monday last week when we did that. Who is good in the Big Ten? And the answer is the old Pac-12 schools are
yeah.
good in the Big Ten in
And the same
baseball.
thing, with softball. There's one original Big Ten or SEC team in the Final Eight, just one. And that's Tennessee. Everybody else came from the Big 12 or the Pac-12.
Then you throw in Oklahoma and Texas, and you
Yeah.
throw in your UCLA's and
UCLA, Oregon,
yeah.
yeah, and you've got Texas Tech in there with the Big 12 and that kind of thing. So, yeah, one original SEC team or Big Ten team in the softball, and you mentioned the baseball situation with and the football thing I think is very apropos. A Big 12 team won the Big Ten. A Big 12 team won the SEC. An American Conference team won the ACC. We're talking regular season now. Nobody won. The SEC team didn't win their league. Big Ten team didn't win their league. ACC team didn't win their league, and the Big 12 team didn't win their league.
Hey, that's why we have conference expansion, and hey, our teams stink. Let's bring in some new ones. Let's bring in some good ones. And who I've asked you this a week or two ago, Coach Mack, and I believe your answer was everything is not settled. That's probably not a great word, but you don't think we see any more expansion realignment for a little while? Is that what you said?
I think it'll be at least 5 years before we see
Wow.
anything, unless there's something just major, and television jumps in and gets involved. I can't see any expansion, before 2029.
Mac, did you follow Sankey? I was in baseball mode last week when I guess Greg Sankey
Yeah.
talked about the SEC. What were the biggest talking points coming out of that when it comes to college football in the SEC?
Well, and this is just my opinion, but I thought he was a little sanctimonious, if you'll pardon the pun. Instead of Sankey, I thought he was sanctimonious a little
Okay.
bit. But yeah, telling people that I don't need to be lectured about the good of the game, and then he proceeds to lecture everybody about the good of the game. Uh, he's doing a great job as commissioner of the SEC. He has made them a powerhouse, although nobody really points out they don't make as much money as the Big Ten. The Big Ten makes more money than the SEC. They've also won the last two national championships in football. But and of course, the real critics of the SEC will say that now that everybody's paying players, it'll be a little bit harder for them to win. But it's a great league. You look what they do in softball, baseball, basketball was unbelievable. Football is always really good. They put a lot of emphasis on it, spend a lot of money on it. He's done a great job in that. But I would question him as to whether he is actually looking out for the good of the game and what's good for college athletics in general. And the big thing to come out of their meetings was that they sort of want to go with the 5 automatic qualifiers, the 4 Power 4, and the 1 Group of 5, and then 11 at large. I don't think you can make a playoff scenario where they don't have an advantage because
Yeah.
they have more good teams than everybody. But it ought to be as fair as possible. And they started out with the 4, 4, 2, 2, and 1 kind of automatic qualifier now, and now they're it's sort of like at the 5 and 11. But the Big Ten doesn't want to go with that unless the SEC goes to 9 conference games. And the ESPN, ABC, that package, they've said, we'll pay for that extra game. We'll pay you a premium for that extra game, but they still won't commit to it. Their coaches are totally against it. And everybody, again, looking out for what's best for themselves rather than what's best for the good of the game.
There you go. It's that way in life a lot of times, and certainly that way in athletics. So Coach Mack, a couple of weeks ago, we got the and again the field was set kind of as far as the teams go and conferences and everything, but we did have a tweak to the playoff for this upcoming season, which would be we're just gonna go with the top 4. It doesn't matter if you won your conference. If you're a conference champion, you're not going to see an Arizona State or a Boise State get a bye like we did last year. When do you think do we play this season out, Coach Mack, and then have the new format released, or do you think it comes out mid-season, during the season, before? When do you think we see this 2026 playoff format?
No, I say a lot of things on this show that are probably they probably end up in the trash heap or incorrect. But that's the one thing I said was going to happen. That's the only change for this year, and that'll be the only change for this year is that they'll seed the teams 1 through 16 because last year it really wasn't fair the way it was interesting and entertaining, but it wasn't fair to anybody really. So that'll happen this year, and then going forward before December, maybe earlier, but certainly before December, we'll know the format, and almost assuredly, almost 100%, it'll go to the 16 teams, and then what happens from there on is still up in the air. Whether they go with the big number of automatic qualifiers or the minimum number of 5 automatic qualifiers, I don't think they'll go to a straight 16 at large teams.
Right.
I don't think they'll do that.
I hope not.
There'll be an awful lot of blowback if they do that.
And I mean that blowback would be from a Group of 5 standpoint.
Sure.
Who else would blow back on that? What other conferences?
I think everybody outside of the SEC and the Big Ten would.
Okay.
I don't think there's any question. The only hang up, the only thing we're waiting on now is the Big Ten to give in or the SEC to give in on whether the SEC plays 9 games. And ironically, the ACC is sitting there. They're also playing 8, but nobody mentions that because they haven't been much of a factor here in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years.
They really are kind of an afterthought now, and they're playing 8, but we're seeing more of these ACC teams playing non-conference games, right? I've seen those,
and I think that's smart. That there's some rivalries that you need to continue. And we did this in the Southern Conference a long time ago when we were put in different divisions with Marshall to start with. When we went to divisions in the SoCon, we continued to play Marshall twice a year. It was terribly confusing for the fans. One of them was a conference game, one of them was a non-conference. And then we did the same thing later on when ETSU came back into the league. They left the league, came back in, and they were in a separate division. And I wasn't there then, but they continued to play them twice a year. But I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that's a really smart move in all sports.
Yeah, cover your ears, Pirate fans. They don't want to hear that, but you know, it makes more
Pirate
sense.
fans are happy right now. Baseball was salvaged, and everybody jumped back on the bandwagon. It was great.
Well, Kevin O'Sullivan really united all of us, so I got to thank him for that.
Beating Florida twice didn't hurt either.
It's great when you have a common enemy. Everybody can hate Coach Mack, and
Love
he
that.
did his job.
It was
I was
funny.
right there with you.
It was funny because Saturday night it was just ECU Coastal, like we hate each other, and then Sunday morning it was like still screw Coastal, and then all that came out, and everybody just started holding hands, singing "Kumbaya." We hate Kevin O'Sullivan.
There's
There you go.
a phrase, Coach Mack. Everything is wrestling, and there's a good guy, there's a bad guy, there's a plot twist, there's a turn. Like I went into this thing thinking Coastal was going to be the heel. They were going to be the bad guy. They were going to be the rival. And like Jarrett said, almost turned out that we had a match with Coastal, and at the end we shook hands in the middle of the ring, and then we both just beat up Florida, basically. And
Yeah, there's an old saying that the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. One more question I had on the playoff. In your best guess, Coach Mack, do you think we see another – you think they go with the 2-year format deal? Like we're going to do this for 2 years and then revisit it? Do you think they expand that to 5? Do you think they say, hey, let's just do it for 1? What's your best guess at when they go back to the drawing board?
I think it'll be 5 or 6. I think I think they want some continuity and want some stability and want something to be able to plan for, and because it does affect how you schedule and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think they'll want some stability. I'd be surprised if it doesn't go to 5 or 6.
Mack McCarthy joining us today on Pirate Radio Live. Coach Mack quiz. Can you name the 2 teams in the NBA Finals?
I can. Oklahoma City and Indiana, yeah, Pacers.
So, will we have a first-time NBA champion this year? Have the Pacers ever won?
I don't think they have.
I don't either. Yeah,
I was gonna say yes, first time.
yeah, no OKC for sure. So, although Seattle won, late 70s, Mac? But
Yeah.
does that count? I don't think that counts for
I
Oklahoma
think
City.
they have their history, but I mean, are we really gonna say the Thunder have a NBA
The
championship?
Thunder do not, but yeah.
Nah. That
Well,
doesn't count.
all right, there you go. So there's that. Can you name the 2 teams in the Stanley Cup final?
Yeah.
You know who beat the Hurricanes, right?
Florida is
Yes,
in
sir.
there, and the Penguins.
I think you just wanted to say the Penguin. Did you watch the Penguin on HBO Max? It was actually good.
No.
You're
No,
not
sorry.
I don't look at you as a comic book guy. It's more of a mafia show than it is a comic book show. I don't know if that would.
Okay. All right.
But,
If things dry up on the streaming,
Yeah.
I'll jump on it.
It's worth watching, I think. Who's the actor, Jared? Do you
Colin
know?
Farrell.
Colin Farrell. Yeah, I mean it was a good
He's
show.
good.
Yeah.
He's good.
All right. Oh, Edmonton Oilers, by the way, taking on the Florida Panthers.
Oh, I was close.
Go Canada. Sorry, I can't pull for the Panthers. What are you looking at over there, Jared, on your phone that you want to talk about?
NASCAR.
Yeah, that's where I was getting to. So Coach Mack finally won a race.
Yep, he's not in the positives, but he's not in the negatives. He is at a flat 0.
A 0. There you go, Mack.
Outstanding.
Nobody had a DNF. Clip got no points. I had the best average. So, good weekend for me and Mac.
I thought I was going to get the best average there for a while. I had them all up there in the top 5 for a minute, but some of them faded on me.
Ty Gibbs is the only one that really screwed you.
Yeah.
getting in the
I
30s
don't know what
there.
he broke or something. He was going about 25 miles an hour at one time.
So what was the deal with Denny Hamlin? I wasn't able to watch the race, but I saw like headlines like he had a top 3 finish after a grueling final stage.
Yeah, it just didn't. It just didn't go right for him. But he got beat on the restart, and then it was hard to make up. Unless you had a really long run, it was hard to make up ground.
Okay.
Anything else from last week in NASCAR?
No.
I learned yesterday that Ryan Blaney had a dad in racing. Had no idea, Coach Mack.
Oh yeah, Dave Blaney, yeah, and his uncle Dale Blaney was an outstanding Outlaws guy in Ohio, maybe a national champion. And I actually coached against his uncle Dale Blaney. He was a guard. He and Bob Huggins were the backcourt for West Virginia way back in the early '70s. How about that for some trivia?
How was Huggy Bear as a player?
He was pretty good. He was pretty good. He made a three-quarter court shot to beat us one time
Oh, wow.
at the end of a game. Yeah, that wasn't much fun. But yeah, he was a little. I don't know about obnoxious, but
I can see that.
he was a little controversial even as a player. He was hard. He was tough.
Sounds about right. That's you described him as a coach there, and talking about him as a player.
Exactly.
This week we are in Michigan.
Yep.
All right.
Michigan, and then off to Mexico.
Whoa, Viva Mexico 250. Interesting. Is this? Have they done that before?
Not the Cup, right, Jared?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not the Cup.
They've done the Xfinity and the trucks, and if I'm not mistaken, it's a road course.
Jared was in Conway watching baseball Sunday night. I was watching baseball. Coach Mack, how was the prime call of the race? Any better?
Oh, I mean, it was still good. I mean, we still got a little too much screaming from Junior. Letarte dialed it way back. He didn't scream as much, but and then Junior said something today that just blew my mind. He said they asked him, and I don't know what format, what platform, but they asked him anybody remind him of his dad, and he said Hocevar and Chastain. That was a smear on his dad's reputation in my mind.
Yeah, I saw that. I had the same feeling.
Oh,
Does he have a
shake my
connection with those guys?
no, I don't even think he likes them.
Maybe he didn't
course,
like his dad.
He didn't like his dad much, to start with, anyway.
Oh man, interesting. All right. Well, Coach Mack, I guess that's about it for this week.
Good deal. Good
we'll
show.
dive in. So we got June, July. We'll dive into. I want to talk more and more kind of football previews as we move along. So we'll think of a good format for that because Coach Mack got me. I said it last year. I don't know if it was the expanded playoff or realignment or my conversations with Mack. I think all of them helped my love for college football. I was really into it last year, and we'll get folks fired up about it this year, Mack.
Okay, and something to be thinking about as you start to look forward to the season. There are no real dominant quarterbacks out there. There are a bunch that could be, but nobody separated themselves. You got people that are hurt or inexperienced or finally getting their chance, but there are a whole bunch. There are probably 40 or 50 guys that you could make a case might be one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and that's something as you start making your predictions you're going to have to get into and study a little bit.
Okay, good stuff. We will we'll hit that quite a bit here over the next couple months.
ECU and quarterbacks, Mike Wright, right? Is Mike?
Yes.
Yeah. If you didn't see it, I don't know. Everybody looks at the Athletic, but there's a really nice article about quarterback dads and the quarterback position and coaches dealing with quarterback dads and that kind of thing. And he was featured toward the end of that article in a very positive light.
Oh, good. I didn't know where that was going. Good to hear positive.
Really nice. Really
good,
nice.
Good. Had a great interview with Holt Nailers on the Holt Nailers show. Seems like a cool, nice young man. So, yeah, that's good to hear. All right, Maxter. Enjoyed it, man. Have a good week.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, and
See you
don't
later.
I don't want to see an apology letter coming from you this week, so behave.
No, not too late for that.
See you, man.